Okay. Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Welcome to episode 23, the Don't Be
2-3.
Ridiculous podcast, 2-3. Um, yeah, we had some interesting games yesterday. Both came down to a last second field goal, which is,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, they were decent, but I mean, so far the playoffs have been kind of, maybe we'll get a really good game in the next few games. But yeah, no, I was just looking up the box score from the Packers game last night because I had some stuff I was going to look at.
yeah,
But
yeah. So it was, let's hit the Bengals Titans first. Let's get that out of the way, and then we'll
okay,
we'll
all right, let's do
proceed
that.
to the
Yeah.
main story.
Um, yeah. First of all, it's pretty crazy. Burrow's the first quarterback to win a playoff game after getting sacked 9 times. The previous leader was 8 sacks, Donovan McNabb in 2003. And then it was the Bengals' first road playoff win in their history.
Yep.
And then, of course, last weekend was their first playoff win in 31 years. So, yeah, pretty crazy statistics. So,
Yeah, so the Bengals are in the AFC Championship game. I thought,
we predicted that, right? Obviously, everybody saw that one coming.
yeah, right. Clearly, before the season, everyone had the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. So, yeah, that's clearly the surprise. I thought, Tennessee's defense played well enough for them to win. Just
Yeah,
Tennessee's offense, just they finally. It was like that. I feel like that drive where in the third quarter, I think, where they actually ran the ball, ran the ball consistently, and just the Bengals couldn't stop them. They go all the way down near the end zone, and Tannehill throws that interception where the guy tips it up in the air and catches it.
yeah, that was a great interception. That was a great play.
That was kind of a backbreaker. Like I feel like right now I was texting you like that. It felt like Tennessee was going to take over the game right then. That
Yeah,
felt like it because they couldn't stop. They couldn't stop them running the ball on the previous drive, and they had scored they'd gotten a
yeah.
touchdown. And it felt like if they had gotten, it felt like they were going to go in to score. And if they get a touchdown there, it would have been pretty tough for the Bengals.
Yeah, because I mean the Bengals, they couldn't. I mean, Burrow got sacked 9 times. I mean, in credit to the Tennessee defense, like they were doing a great job. And yeah, it was just tough the whole game. It was just tough for them to really move. I mean, they got a few plays here and there, but it was just tough to kind of string stuff together.
Yeah,
Um, and I mean, dude, that throw Tannehill made to AJ Brown in the end zone where he caught it one handed. I mean, that's one of the most perfect throws. I mean, he literally threw it right. I mean, he didn't even have to really move his arm. It just threw it. The ball just landed right in his arm next to his body. I mean, it was unbelievable. Credit to him for making that throw because I mean, he was double covered and he threw it basically at the pylon in the only spot where AJ Brown could get it, no one else could get it. So credit to him.
yeah, yeah. But the one interception was a great play, but the interception in the first play of the game, and then the one in the fourth quarter, those were just bad plays by Tannehill.
Yeah, yeah, those were not good. Yeah,
And I think this is the issue with Joe Burrow is he will hold on to the ball to try to make something happen. And it probably served him because he didn't throw a bad interception like we see some of these other quarterbacks like Carson Wentz like to just throw the ball when they're getting tackled. And so but yeah, I think this is
he
it's
took a few bad sacks. I thought there
yeah.
were times where he got knocked out of field goal range where it's like the guy's on you, just go down, just keep your team in field goal range because in a nip and tuck game like that, you need the points. So
Yeah,
fortunately, it didn't come back to bite him, but
yeah, and look at the Bengals, kicking field goals. I know all the analytics people on Twitter were probably very upset,
kicked a
but
bunch of field goals. They've won 2 playoff games. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. Look interesting how that works. So
yeah,
yeah, I think it's funny. The Bengals are obviously a flawed team. They obviously have the
yeah.
offensive line is a big problem, and they obviously have some issues that may prevent them from winning the whole thing. But
Well, and to be fair, they've beaten 2 flawed teams
right,
to get it. So make of that what you want. I mean, I got to give them a lot of credit, but it's the Titans. No one really believed in the Titans, and maybe there is an argument to be made. They should have used Derrick Henry less because I just don't think, and I don't know if that was an offensive line issue or what, he wasn't totally himself. And that's because he hasn't played in, 2.5 months or whatever. Deontay Foreman came in, he had a few really good runs. So there's maybe some people like, maybe you should have put him in there. Who the hell knows? I mean,
I don't think Tennessee had a problem running the football. I don't think that was the issue.
Yeah.
The issue was that when they had to throw the ball and when you're behind most of the game, that makes it difficult. But yeah, no, listen, I'm rooting for. Listen, I am the president of the Joe Burrow fan club, so I am, I was one of the first ones on the bandwagon from when he was in college. I think he's spectacular. So we'll see how he does. Moving on to Aaron Rodgers, another playoff disappointment. The Green Bay Packers, especially, another playoff loss. They lost the last 2 years in the NFC Championship game, and then this year they lose in the divisional round in, a really kind of crazy game. That
well, can we just first of all, and we were texting about this last night. I'm done with really cold weather games. I'm done with games in bad weather. I hate watching that. That game last night was it was not fun to watch. Okay, people are like, oh, it's old school people. Oh, it's football. Bullshit. It's terrible. Okay, I want to see the players on the field competing with each other. I don't want them also competing with the elements. Okay, that was just kind of. I mean, it was at one point they're like it's 9 degrees, but it feels like 0. And then it's like they're saying it's snowing. Well, it's not really going to snow unless it's 32 degrees. It's just basically ice falling from the sky. Anyway, that's just a side note. I don't know if there's any way to fix that, but it's just I just find that intensely annoying.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was a pretty boring game for about 52 minutes. And then it ended up being interesting at the end because, and then once the snow started, the ground became basically a slippery sheet of ice and you couldn't really, couldn't keep your footing, which basically limited, so it's like, and then in the first half, it was basically nobody could catch the ball. So, it just becomes a war of attrition as to see who can make one stupid play to win the game. And the 49ers got the block punt for the touchdown, which basically gave them a chance. I don't think there was any chance of the 49ers winning that game.
So that's basically and I don't know, maybe this isn't the right question, but basically what I feel like everyone's going to be talking about today and also on all the shows tomorrow is, well, they may not ask this question, but they're either going to blame the loss on Aaron Rodgers or they're not going to blame it on Aaron Rodgers. They'll blame it on something else, And so I guess the question is, was this loss on Aaron Rodgers? I'll get into what I don't think that it was, but what do you think?
I think, they say the wind blows colder at the top of the mountain. When you're Aaron Rodgers, you're going to get unfairly criticized. It's just kind of the way it is. I don't think he played great in this game. I think they couldn't get any drives in the second half, but neither could San Francisco. No, I don't put this squarely on Aaron Rodgers, but when you score 10 points in a playoff game, this is what's going to happen. And it's, we've talked about this before, Tom Brady's been pretty average in a lot of playoff games and they've managed to win a lot of them. So he doesn't get, he's pretty much above criticism.
Aaron Rodgers, basically, a lot of times he doesn't play well and they don't win. So it just kind of,
But yeah, this to me is the special teams clearly blew this game.
Worst special teams unit in the league.
Right.
And I always get annoyed when people at the end, after a bad loss, they blame the coaches or they blame the play calling. I'm not going to get into blaming play calling or anything like that. I'm just going to say, if your special teams unit is the worst in the league, that's on the head coach because you're the one who puts together the staff. You hire the special teams coach. So, I mean, it wasn't just, remember, it was the block punt for the touchdown, a blocked field goal at the end of the first half, and then they gave up a huge kick return at the beginning of the second half that set up San Francisco getting a field goal to make it 10-3 to make the block punt touchdown tie the game. So, I mean, if you're asking me who I'm going to blame, I'm going to blame the special teams unit of Green Bay, because as the quarterback, you're not coaching special teams. You don't really have anything to do with that. Okay. Now, could Aaron Rodgers have played a little better? Yes. But you have to give credit to San Francisco's defense. Their defensive line rushed the crap out of him. They sacked him 5 times, And the thing that was really annoying to me was I'm listening to Colin Cowherd's podcast. He posted it late last night, and I listened to it this morning. And he's saying this is all on Aaron Rodgers because he didn't do enough on offense. And he almost never talked about the punt. And I'm like, if the special teams doesn't get a punt blocked for a touchdown, which almost never happens, Green Bay wins the game. So I just have a hard time.
Yeah, the blaming Aaron Rodgers.
Last year on Aaron Rodgers, fine. He had some drives in that game that he probably should have had. And granted, their defense did some stuff that screwed him over, but he probably should have won that game last year in the NFC Championship against Tampa Bay. This one I'm not really going to put on him. It's like sometimes these games are, and Colin Cowherd was like, oh, well, he didn't throw the ball down the field enough. And I'm like, well, first of all, that's not entirely true. And second of all, in a nip-tuck game like this, do you really want to be taking a bunch of chances like that? People were ripping Jimmy Garoppolo at halftime for that terrible interception he threw at the end of the first half when they were in field goal range. And that basically took away a chance for them to even get 3 points. So, yeah, I don't I have a hard time. I'm like, you can't, the weather was a factor. People couldn't catch the ball. And he's like, oh, he only throws it to Davante Adams. He threw 9 passes to, I think, one of the running backs. Okay. And it's like, oh yeah, well, he should have gone down the field. Well, he was holding the ball, trying to go down the field. People couldn't get open, and he was also getting sacked. So I don't understand how. I can't put this on. I think that's a ridiculous, hacky sports talk radio thing that people are going to do. And people are like, oh, well, fairly or unfairly, when you're, heavy is the head that wears the crown and all that stuff. It's like, well, fairly or unfairly, well, criticizing for this loss, I think, is unfair. So
yeah, the criticizing Aaron Rodgers thing is a legacy thing. He's been to the Super Bowl once, and he's one of the best quarterbacks we've ever had. So that's honestly what it comes down to. But you need your team to pull this stuff off. There's a reason that every time Brady made it to the Super Bowl, he had a top 10 defense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's just one of those things where, the point I was just trying to think of. Oh yeah. Colin was basically, he's fitting everything into his ongoing narrative about Aaron Rodgers. He only throws the ball to Davante Adams. He wants to have a perfect passer rating. So he doesn't take chances. He doesn't throw interceptions. It's like, first of all, he did throw the ball down the field. Okay. He threw the ball way down the field to set up what should have been a field goal that should have put them up 10. I'm trying to remember because they missed the field goal got blocked at the end of the first half, right? Were they already up 10-0?
7-0.
Okay. So, but then they got a field goal in the second half. So it would have been 13. So the game might have been tied if not for the blocked field goal, even with the blocked punt. Okay. The fact that two of those, you're going to blame the quarterback when 2 of those crazy ass things happen in the same game, in a game where the weather is crap and the offense can't do anything because the offensive line's getting rushed from all angles by the, San Francisco's defense played really well. So.
Yeah, if Rodgers had played like Garoppolo played, we'd want to throw him out of town today. So.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that's annoying to me, where we basically we just throw out context and we fall into these old cliches. Well, he's the quarterback, so he's got to take all the blame. And it's like, do you always do that? Do people always do that with Brady? I don't feel like they always do that with Brady. They always did it with Peyton Manning, but I don't know.
So yeah, but now we got to move this forward now. So do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to stick it out with Green Bay, or is he going to retire, or is he going to try to go somewhere else?
Yeah. Well, basically, there's going to be, I think, the next tomorrow and maybe a little bit on Tuesday. Maybe they're talking about the game, but I think even tomorrow they're going to start talking about what's going to happen next, and then from Tuesday on, it's going to be, and into the offseason, it's going to be what is Aaron Rodgers going to do? And I was reading, I think it was on ESPN. I mean, their cap situation is kind of crazy because they had this window of the last 3 years, with this really good team, they're not going to be able to keep everybody on offense and defense. Devontae Adams might leave. So the team's not going to be as good next year, I don't think, because they're not going to, what they're going to have to do they're going to have to try to restructure some contracts. They're going to have to let some people go. It's not going to be as good. So the idea that, well, maybe Green Bay is the best place for him to be, that may still be the case, but not as clearly as it would have been the last 3 years when they had all this talent on both sides of the ball. So he's still under contract, though. So they would have to trade him. So if you're Aaron Rodgers, do you want another team to have to give up like 3 first-round picks to get you? And I don't even know who those teams are who still have 3 first-round picks. Like, people can be like, oh, he can go to Denver. Okay, fine. So you're going to have to play Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes 4 times every year. Like, your division now is crap. The Bears, who knows what the hell is going on there. The Vikings, they just fired their coach. The Lions are the Lions. So, and maybe there's some other teams, I don't know, like, trying to think. It was funny for a second. I was kind of thinking, what if he pulls a Kevin Durant, but he can't really do that because San Francisco just drafted Trey Lance. So I don't think they really want to go down that road.
The only way they would do it is if they trade Trey Lance to the Packers.
Yeah.
But I don't. But I honestly, I don't think Green Bay is going to trade him. I think.
I don't either.
I think they will. I think they'll work it out. Honestly, I think this is all kind of posturing.
That's my thing. If next, after next year, he'd be a free agent. So, unless they franchise him or something, if he wants to go somewhere else, he could go somewhere else. Then he'd be a free agent. He could kind of go wherever the hell he wanted, and you wouldn't have to worry about that team giving up a massive haul just to get you. So,
yeah, well, I wouldn't even honestly. That to me is kind of a ridiculous argument. Who cares about first round picks? The Rams don't.
That's true.
First round picks to me. I'm over the whole first round pick thing. Unless it's a top 5 pick, I really don't care. I'll give up whatever because I want to win now. So I wouldn't. It wouldn't bother me. I would be worried if I was Aaron Rodgers and going to go someplace. I would be worried that the team would trade away players that team has. That's what I would be worried about. I wouldn't give a crap about first round.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, Denver, they really are one of those teams where you're like, God, it feels like they're a quarterback away, like on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. Pittsburgh, New Orleans.
Pittsburgh. Right. So
yeah, it's going to be a quite an interesting offseason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's really like, we'll see if anybody really wants to pony it, if they want to do that. It might happen, but I'm just kind of, maybe I'm too skeptical. I'm just kind of skeptical. I'll believe it when I see it. Because we haven't really seen somebody do this.
Yeah, the Packers would be insane. I don't think they'll let it happen.
So I just don't. I think it makes for a lot of interesting conversation, and this is kind of what sports talk radio and all these talk shows run on. Is this kind of speculation and stuff? But I still don't think anything's going to happen.
We'll see what happens this week on Pat McAfee's podcast, because that'll be what everybody's talking about.
Let's check that out. Yeah,
that'll be.
So speaking of which, just a side note, I don't know if anybody caught Saturday Night Live last night. They made fun of First Take.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had Chris Redd was Stephen A. Smith, and then Kenan Thompson was Michael Irvin, because Michael Irvin is now host, and it's just. They start having these ridiculous debates about it. So is Tom Brady, I forget what it was. It's like really good or really, really good. And, Stephen's like, no, he's just really good. And the other guy's like, no, he's really, really good. Apples or oranges? Oh, I've been thinking about this a lot. It's like, it was, you got to check it out. It's really fun.
I'll have to check that out. All right, so what do you want to do first? You want to preview the games today first, or do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So what do we got? We got the Rams and the Bucks. So now that Green Bay lost, the winner of Rams Bucks has home field in the NFC Championship. So
that's right.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that's a good thing, because now we're not going to get crappy weather game, a bad weather game in the NFC Championship game, unless there's bad weather in Tampa, which I highly doubt it unless it's like raining. I mean, last weekend it was kind of windy and overcast, but we'll see.
Yeah, but it won't be freezing cold.
I mean, I think we were talking about this. We've been talking about this all week. I mean, I think the Rams have a really, I hate wording it that way, great chance, but I would not be shocked at all if they won this game. I think if they can start getting after Tom Brady, and based on the offensive line for Tampa Bay having those injuries, I think there's a really good shot they can start getting after Brady. And if they start doing that, then I think it becomes really interesting, particularly if the Rams can run the ball on offense and they don't have to have Matt Stafford throwing the ball 40 times. It seems like Colin Cowherd seems like it's saying it's a foregone conclusion that they're just going to Tampa Bay is going to stop the run. And I'm like, all right, let's see. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they played, the Tampa's defense obviously played really well last week, but they knew what Philadelphia was going to do. It was pretty so yeah.
Right. Rams hopefully should be more creative than that. So
yeah, I think the Rams pass rush can be a problem, and so that'll be
Von Miller and Aaron Donald. Now Von Miller is not what he once was, but he's still pretty darn good.
Yep, Leonard Floyd and the guys that they have there. Yeah, the Rams defense is very good, so they have a chance to put pressure on Brady, and especially if they have offensive line injuries, which they had last week. So yeah, I think the Rams have a real chance here. But game could come down to Stafford having to make some big time throws.
Yeah, and that's just something you can't really put your faith in. So that's kind of the thing holding me back. But I think everybody's kind of, the Bucks are. Maybe people have overrated the Bucks a little bit, and they kind of give them so much credit because they won the Super Bowl last year, even though it was really besides the Super Bowl, it was really close in every game. But yeah, it's one of those things where it feels like the seas are parting and the pathway is clearing now because the Packers are out of it. But still, I don't know. I mean, the 49ers pass rush, I mean, if they're getting after Brady the way they were getting after Rodgers, and it's, not in crappy weather like that, assuming the Bucks were to win the game today.
Yeah, it would be pretty strange. Even if the Rams win this game, they'd have to play San Francisco again, and they've already lost to them twice. So
right,
it would be.
I would almost give the advantage to the Rams there because beating a team 3 times in one season is kind of difficult. So
yeah, but the Kyle Shanahan has beaten Sean McVay almost every time they've played. So it's kind of strange. We'll see. I've been since the playoffs started. I've been skeptical of San Francisco, and I think I retain my skepticism. I don't see the way the 49ers play as a formula to win another game. They shouldn't have won the last game yesterday, and so I feel like the Rams Bucks, they're getting the game at home. I feel like whoever wins today is likely the favorite to go to the Super Bowl. Same thing with the second game today, with the Bills Chiefs, which I'm really looking forward to. I think most of America is.
Yeah.
Two great fan bases. They really have a collegiate kind of atmosphere at their games. Their fans are, very loyal and rabid. So I think it's going to be really exciting. What do you see in that game?
So, I think it's going to be Josh Allen's not going to play as well as he did against the Patriots against the Chiefs. I don't think, because it's just, you can't, odds are you can't keep up that level of play. But, I think it's really more going to come down to, can the Buffalo's defense do enough to slow down the Chiefs and give them problems, and then can the Bills run the ball both with Josh Allen and Singletary, and can Josh Allen be like, he can't have, remember he had a close game against the Jets, he lost to the Jaguars this year, he's had some clunkers this year, So he can't go out and have a clunker in this game, obviously. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I guess if I was betting on it, I would bet on the Chiefs just because I've seen them do it before, even though the Chiefs aren't the same team as they like. I think that's one of the traps maybe I've fallen into this year is like, oh, the Chiefs aren't as good as they were last year or the year before. That's fine, but the way they were last year and the year before was like ridiculously good. They're still a really good team. So, and they've done it before. So I just don't, would I be surprised if Buffalo won? No, not at all. And a matter of fact, I'm hoping Buffalo wins because I'm hoping that this is like the new Brady Manning and we get this like 2 or 3 more times over the next few years. And it kind of goes back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to debate, Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, and with arguments like that, I always think they're kind of stupid. Like, yeah, I don't really care. I'll take either one.
Yeah.
They're both spectacular. So yeah, I think that's going to be really fun. I agree with you. I think the defense that is able to create some problems, maybe get a turnover or two, that'll probably be
Yeah.
the difference in the game. But neither one of these teams is going to be out of it, no matter if one
Yeah.
team takes the lead.
No. But I will say that like the Chiefs, I don't think for instance, they can't start off the way they started off last week, where they kind of started off the first quarter, they're kind of asleep, and then they get down 7-0, and then they just turn it on. Like I wouldn't like if they get behind by enough. I'm kind of like, all right, I'm getting a little skeptical here that they're going to come back again. So I think they better start off well. I'm not saying they got to be coming right out of the gate throwing a bunch of long passes, scoring a bunch of points right away, but you can't be sleepwalking through the first quarter or the first half. Because I feel like if you get behind on Buffalo, then I think they're a team that can really start putting it on you.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to who makes the plays in the critical moments. This is what Yeah, the Tom Brady is overrated crowd will disagree with me, but I think that's the key to why Brady wins a lot of these games is he makes the one throw right when you need it.
Yeah.
A lot of times before halftime or right after halftime, or whenever the momentum's changing. So I think this is going to be one of those games where it's going to be back and forth. Somebody's going to make a big play at the right time, and that'll probably decide the game.
Yeah. Do you think? Of course, maybe we'll be talking about this next week after the Bucks probably beat the Rams. But this could potentially be Brady's last game if he were to lose. Do you think win or lose this game or win or lose the Super Bowl? Do you think this is kind of it? Like I've been kind of skeptical of that just because I'm like, it just seems like he's obsessed with playing. But I don't know. I think at a certain point, it gets to be kind of a thing where his family's kind of like, all right, we've been sacrificing for, over 20 years now. Like, you got 7 rings? Are you done? Like,
yeah, this was a tough year because they had all the injuries. They had the Antonio Brown thing where basically, Brady was the one who kind of, greased the wheels for them to get Antonio Brown, and then that whole thing blew up in their face, and it made everybody look stupid. So I wonder if there's any residual from that, and does he just say, you know what, this is a really tough year, but I mean, I think he's still got, I think he extended his contract. I think he's still got another year left. So, I wouldn't be surprised. Nothing would surprise me with him. I wouldn't be surprised if he said, all right, I'm good, and I wouldn't be surprised if he said, all right, let's make one more run at it. Because I mean, if you think about it, right, Tampa can't keep everybody forever, right?
yeah, that's the other thing, right? I mean, that's the one thing people need to remember, especially in the NFL. It's like, you're good for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. It's like, okay, well, the roster is probably going to start to change a little bit, and you're not going to be able to stay at that level. So it's just, and it's not even just that. Even if you retain a lot of your guys, people start getting hurt. So and the Bucks have had injuries this year. So
yeah, Gronkowski's getting older. Godwin's not going to be back until I'm assuming he'll be back next season, but might not be at the beginning of the season. Um,
I don't know.
so
They could be recovering now. I mean, like Cam Akers was back after tearing his Achilles tendon, so
yeah.
see.
So it wouldn't surprise me, but we'll see. It'll be we'll see how it goes. I don't. I mean, I don't think Brady is not. It's not like Brady has any reason to come back.
Yeah, right.
There's no.
He's
He's
not
not
the Patriots anymore, so I'm not really concerned.
right. He's not. He's not going to improve his legacy at all by winning more.
Yeah, no, it's already
He's
pretty much. It is what it is.
he's secured where he is.
All right. So what? So I mean, I'm basically I'm thinking it's going to be Chiefs versus Bengals and Bucks versus 49ers. That's pretty much what I'm.
You
Although
think
I would like the Bills and the Rams to win, I don't think it's going
you
to happen.
think you like Tampa, huh?
I mean, I can make a case for the Rams. I just feel like it'll come down to Stafford screwing something up, or it'll just something weird will happen, like it always seems to happen with Brady. So
Yeah,
whatever.
I like the Rams. I like the Rams overall team. I think they have better players.
Yeah,
And
I'm almost there. I don't know. Maybe it's like a thing like before the Patriots played the Bills, everyone was like, or we probably should have been like, the Bills are clearly the better team. Everyone was like, yeah, but it's the Patriots, and maybe I'm doing that. I don't know.
yeah, I think the Rams. So I think Rams 49ers, and I think the Rams get them this time. I think at home, I think they'll be ready. I think the 49ers are almost out of bullets. And I mean, you see, Debo Samuel got banged up, and so we'll see.
Yeah, half their team was walking off the field injured last night. I mean,
Yeah, so I think.
not a very good game.
Yeah, I just think I don't think the 49ers, like I said, they can't play four good quarters. They didn't play four good quarters last night. So
Well,
I
the
just,
running game is not what it was the year they made the Super Bowl. So, and they could live with Garoppolo throwing 9-10 times, but I just think you're going to need him to throw more, and it's just I mean, he threw a terrible interception in the Cowboys game, and he threw a terrible interception last night. So basically, it was funny. Colin Cowherd made a good point. It's like, yeah, Garoppolo seems to really only be able to make one throw. It's like a slant or like a crossing route over the middle, and he throws it to Debo Samuel or whoever else. But yeah, it just seems like it's that. And that was funny. The last drive where they went down to get the field goal, he did that like 3 times. So
yeah, but I'm with you. I mean, I would probably pick the Chiefs to beat the Bills. I would say it's probably Chiefs Bengals and then Rams 49ers. And
yeah, and at that point, I don't think the Bengals are going to be able to keep this up. So I would probably go Chiefs. If it's the Bucks, then I would say Chiefs Bucks, and we get a freaking rematch.
Yeah,
which is interesting. We can, the Chiefs could be like, we can try to get revenge for last year. So
yeah, the Chiefs could basically fix the problem that they had, in last year's Super Bowl. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
what else? What else did you want to talk about?
Let's see. Let's do the. Okay. We'll do the. I had an idea for NFL playoff what ifs. So going back and looking at different seasons where it was like this team, you could have made a case that they not necessarily should have, but maybe they had enough to win the Super Bowl and things just didn't break their way. So I was going back and looking at different things. Obviously, we're both Dolphins fans. So I was looking back at Dan Marino's career, and the 1990-91 season, the Dolphins, they went 12-4, and they lost in the divisional round to the Bills. Remember, the Bills ended up going to the Super Bowl and losing on a missed field goal at the end of the Giants.
Right.
So, but anyway, before I get to that end part, let's go back kind of to set that game up, and kind of why I thought it was interesting. So remember, Marino gets drafted, and he comes in like midway through the first year, and he's basically good right away. They go to the playoffs. They lose to Seattle, and then I looked this up. There were 2 fumbled kick returns by the Dolphins, like 2 in a row, which basically doomed them to losing that game. So anyway, so that year, I believe, I'm trying to remember. I think that was the year the Raiders won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right. The Raiders beat the Redskins. Yeah, and there was that run by Marcus Allen where he went one way and then came back the other way and ran, and he was awesome in that game. Anyway, so there was that year, and you could kind of say maybe Miami had a chance. I mean, they had been in the Super Bowl the year before Marino was drafted, and they lost to the Redskins. So they had a good team that year. And then the next year, of course, Marino does the 48 touchdown passes, the 5,084 passing yards. He beats the crap out of Pittsburgh in the AFC Championship. They go to the Super Bowl, they lose to the 49ers. So those are 2 years where you're kind of like, they're kind of a Super Bowl contender. Then the next year, they got, I believe they got home field advantage throughout the playoffs. But anyway, so they got a bye. So they won their first game, and then they got to the AFC Championship game against the Patriots. And remember, the Patriots went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Bears. And the Patriots, it's funny, the beginning of that Bears Super Bowl wasn't that bad. It was only over the third, fourth quarter where it became, a total blowout. But, the Dolphins lost to the Patriots. Marino threw a couple interceptions, and the Dolphins just could not stop the running game of the Patriots. So anyway, so those are kind of 3 years where it's like, okay, maybe there was a Super Bowl window there. The next 4 years, I believe, the Dolphins didn't make the playoffs. And they sort of retooled their roster a little bit. In terms of on defense, and then on offense, they added Sammy Smith. I mean, they drafted him. They had another fullback, Tony Page. Who else do they have? Tony Martin as a receiver. Of course, Mark Clayton, Mark Duper. And they developed into a pretty good team. And then that 1990-91 season, they went 12-4. The Bills, meanwhile, remember, they drafted Jim Kelly the same year as Marino, and then he went to the USFL. And then the USFL folded, and then he came to the Bills, and the Bills proceeded to build a team with multiple Hall of Famers on it. Jim Kelly, James Lofton, Andre Reed, Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith. And then the players who weren't all Hall of Famers were like really good for their era. Cornelius Bennett, Darryl Talley, all those guys, and guys in the secondary, whatever. So it was crazy. So that year, the Dolphins, as I said, went 12-4. The Bills went 13-3. The Dolphins lost. They beat the Bills early in the season in Miami, and then they played the Bills at the end of the year. The Dolphins were 11-3, and the Bills were 12-2. So that game was for the division. Okay. The week before, Jim Kelly screwed up his knee, so Frank Reich was playing quarterback. Frank Reich, who obviously the next year he would have that comeback against the Oilers in the playoffs. 2 years later. Anyway. So yeah, you're kind of thinking, this is kind of setting up for the Dolphins, but they lost that game. So then they don't get home field. They don't get the number one seed and home field advantage in the playoffs. So that means if they play the Bills in the playoffs, which they did, they would have to go to Buffalo in January. So anyway, so the Dolphins, it's kind of crazy. So they go to the playoffs. They have a home game against Kansas City, and I thought this was hilarious. Maybe this is kind of in a mean way, but they're playing Kansas City, who's coached by Marty Schottenheimer, who obviously has had a lot of bad things happen in the playoffs. The Chiefs get up 16-3, and what do you think happens? The Dolphins come back in the second half. They get ahead 17-16, and then the Chiefs actually get the ball. They go down the field, right? They actually get deep into Dolphins territory. Then they get a couple penalties to get backed up, and then they kick a field goal to try to win the game, and then they miss. So. Which was a constant theme, which Marty Schottenheimer, great coach, but that was a constant theme throughout his playoff career. There were always, all the stuff that happened with Cleveland and John Elway and all that stuff. So anyway, maybe it was kind of a bad start to the playoffs for the Dolphins. But anyway, they play the Bills in Buffalo, and I went on YouTube and I watched a lot of the game. It's a crazy game. So it starts off, the Bills get up 20-3, and you're kind of like, yeah, maybe this is over. Then Marino throws a long bomb down the field to Mark Duper for a touchdown, which, going back and watching Marino, like that dude could sling it. Just like he's sitting there looking, boom, ball goes, down the field on a rope. This is cold, crappy weather. The other thing about that game, everyone's sliding all over the field. Like we were talking about the Packers 49ers game last night. This was worse. Like it didn't start off snowing, but then it just starts really snowing. and everyone's like sliding all over the field. They're having trouble holding on to the ball.
Yeah, and they had AstroTurf in the
exactly.
stadium
So the footing was not easy. So it was 20-3, and then the Dolphins scored, and then the Bills scored again 27-10. The Dolphins scored before halftime, 27-17. Then they get a field goal coming because they get the ball first in the second half. They get a field goal coming out of the half, and then what was it? So it's 30 to the Bills get another field goal, and then the Dolphins score another touchdown. I mean, and there were like plays where I'm trying to remember, when was it? It was when it was 27-10, I believe. The Dolphins had like a 4th and 3 or 4 or something like that. And so Marino gets it. I don't remember if it was out of the shotgun or what, but he throws this bomb downfield to Mark Clayton in between the cornerback and this on 4th down, in between the cornerback. I mean, just perfect, right in his hands, you know. And then they end up scoring. I can't remember which one. It might have been the one that did a fake to the running back, and then Marino ran into the end zone, which was kind of funny, given that Marino was not the most athletic quarterback ever. But anyway, they got it to 30-27, and you're kind of thinking, oh, man, this, you know, maybe they're going to pull this off. But then I think either they couldn't do anything with it or Marino threw an interception or whatever. And then the Bills scored a touchdown, then they got it. They scored again. It was 44-27. The Dolphins scored one more time, and then they ended up losing the game. But it was just kind of crazy because the Dolphins, they were keeping pace with them, and they had beaten the Bills in Miami. So you're thinking, God, if they had just won that second game and the game was in Miami, they would have, first of all, they would have had the bye week, and they would have been playing the Bills, you know, in Miami. And then anyway, the next week, the Bills played the Raiders, and they blew out they scored like 51 points or something. They totally blew them away. The Dolphins lost to the Raiders early in their season, but it was like 13-10. So really close game. And then the Super Bowl, the Bills obviously played the Giants. Dolphins played the Giants it was in New York. They lost 20-3. Now that was with Phil Simms before Phil Simms got hurt. So they had Jeff Hostetler. So, you know, again, like I said, I'm not saying that the Dolphins should have won the Super Bowl that year, but you could kind of make a case for how they could have, because remember, the Bills probably should have won the Super Bowl that year, and the Dolphins were keeping pace with them, you know, in their place in the snow and all this other crap going on. So I just thought that was kind of interesting, especially when you go back and you watch these games and you see all the different things that happen. You're like, oh my God, that guy fumbled there. That guy, you know, like he threw a pass. Like there was one pass Marino threw down the field, and like, you know, the receiver's like this, and the ball bounced off his shoulder pads, and then the Bills intercepted. And you're like, God, if he just caught that. But also, if they were playing in Miami, he probably would have caught it, because it wouldn't have been so, you know, the ball he wouldn't have been throwing a rock at people because the ball was so cold. So
yeah, it's tough to catch. It was tough to catch the ball from Marino in good conditions. I can't imagine
exactly, yeah,
what it was like. Yeah, yeah. I think you know, we talked about this before. I think there's a few prime candidates that to me come to mind. The NFL Network did this series called The Missing Rings. Where they profiled a bunch of teams that came close to winning a championship. I mean, my personal favorite is the '98 Minnesota Vikings. They went 15-1 and were basically the best team in the league that year. I think they had one of the highest scoring offenses of all time. I think they broke the record that existed at the time for the most points in a season.
Even if they didn't win the Super Bowl, they that denied us what would have been an unbelievable game, because the Broncos were, you know, Elway had been hurt a lot that year, but they had a good running game, and you know, Elway was still, you know, he's still a good quarterback. So yeah, we could have had a really high scoring kind of crazy game, and instead we got, you know, I mean, the Broncos ended up scoring 34 points against the Falcons, but yeah, we got kind of robbed.
Yeah, and that team was unbelievable. I mean, they could basically do everything. It was Randy Moss's rookie year, and nobody could cover Randy Moss's entire career, but especially that year. And then they also had Chris Carter, so they basically had, you know, they had a good running back, they had a good tight end, they had everything on offense that you needed, and they were pretty much impossible to stop. And you know, they just you know, they missed a field goal in the NFC Championship game that in the fourth quarter that basically would have put them up by 10, and they would have won the game. But they ended up losing it in overtime, which was pretty insane.
Well, and they could have beaten that Denver Broncos team. Like they could have, not easily, but they could have beaten that. Like that was the thing when I was looking at the Dolphins. Like I was looking at different years, and I was like, when they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the 49ers, like I don't see any way they would have beaten the 49ers. But like the next year if they had made the Super Bowl against the Bears, well, the Dolphins were the only team to beat them that year. So maybe with Marino was what you needed to beat them. So that, and then I was looking at so there were those 3 years, then they missed the playoffs for 4 years. And then the 90-91 season, they were really good. Let's see. And then the divisional round, then the next year, they were good the next year, but they didn't go. I don't think they went as far in the playoffs. Then the year after that, they actually got the AFC Championship game at home, and they were against the Bills. The Bills beat them. But then the Bills went on to play the Dallas Cowboys, who was a team littered with unbelievable talent. So I wasn't really going to pick that year because I'm like, I don't think anybody would have beaten that Dallas Cowboys team. Like I just, So like, yeah, I kind of think the year that I talked about, and then the year where they were playing the Bears, those might have been the two best chances Marino had, because the year they made the Super Bowl against the 49ers, like the Dolphins they weren't as good as that 49ers team. So it just,
Yeah, and I always liked that the early 90s Philadelphia Eagles team.
Yeah, with Buddy Ryan was the defensive coordinator,
yeah,
right?
They had just ridiculous defense. They could beat the Cowboys from time to time. They just never really made it far enough. I mean, they had young Randall Cunningham. They had a good running game, pretty good receivers. That team was really good, and I think had they not been in the NFC East, maybe.
And Cunningham, then he just kept getting hurt. It's just one of those things where it's like you go back and look at this. You can do this in other sports too, where you just go, God, like, you look at some of these teams and you're like, how did they not win? And it's like, well, just, random things didn't happen, didn't go their way. There were injuries, bad timing, like all these things can go, they can go your way or they go against you. And then it's just, you didn't win the championship.
Yeah. I mean, I brought up, when we were talking last time, the Houston Oilers, like the 93 Houston Oiler team, they were playing the run and shoot offense, which, obviously we found out isn't sustainable, but it's funny, if you brought back the run and shoot now, it would probably work pretty well.
Yeah.
So, they came pretty close. That comeback by the Buffalo Bills, I mean, Jesus, I think their win probability in that game was 99% at one point. So, that was insane that they lost that game and then, lost to Joe Montana on the Kansas City Chiefs. So they came close a couple times too. Those were some other teams that I liked. I don't know. I was trying to think about something in the last 10 years or whatever, but I don't really.
Well, there may be years with the Colts where maybe you could do that. I mean, the year that the Colts lost to the Steelers in the divisional round. I mean, it's funny because I feel like there's some games where, like for instance, the Packers, last night, like maybe they were kind of struggling yesterday a little bit. Maybe if they'd just gotten past that game, everything would have been fine. But, and it's the same thing with like the Colts when they lost to the Steelers in the divisional round. It was kind of like the Colts, they came out, they weren't playing that well. Maybe if they'd just gotten past that game. And Manning always, the AFC Championship game, the Steelers played Denver. Manning always kicked the crap out of Denver, So, and then the Super Bowl, they were playing the Seahawks. I mean, the Seahawks were good, but I mean, I think everybody would have favored the Colts in that game. So it's just one of those things where it's like, God, if the kicker just made the kick, or this thing didn't happen, or
that was the year the Colts started 13-0, I think, right?
Yeah.
So that was insane. I was watching. I saw some. I don't know what I was watching something about that game. I think it might have been on YouTube. But yeah, they. Jerome Bettis tries to go into the touchdown to take the lead. He fumbles the ball. The Colts, I think a defensive back picks it up, and he basically all he has to do is beat Ben Roethlisberger to the end zone.
He had to run to the sideline. He ran to the middle of the field.
And
I don't understand. Into the middle of the field.
And Roethlisberger somehow manages to tackle him, which if Colts had scored a touchdown, they would have won. They end up driving down anyway and having a field goal to win the game, and the guy, misses it by, just completely
missed it by a mile. It was, I mean, oh
It,
God.
it was one of those games. It was just insane. You couldn't believe. First, you thought the Steelers clearly had it. Then you thought the Colts definitely had it, and then they end up losing the game anyway. It was just like, well, that figures.
Yeah.
It was insane. Yeah, there were a bunch of a
Well,
bunch of games
then
like
the
that.
funny thing is, you think about it, was it the next year that they won? Yeah, it was the next. They won. They beat the Patriots in the AFC Championship game and won the Super Bowl the next year.
Right.
And then you think about the Patriots game where, like, remember they had a play, they were running the ball into the end zone and the guy fumbled it, but then like Jeff Saturday held on to it, so they scored the touchdown. And then like they're driving down and he throws the ball to Reggie Wayne and he catches it, but then it sort of goes up in the air. He's like, oh, and he grabs it, and they were down 21-3 at one point. It was like, how the hell did they win that game? Like,
And then,
it was a play where, there were just all kinds of things that have to go your way to win the Super Bowl. It's just kind of nuts.
Yeah, the Patriots just had they had a 3rd and 3 or whatever, and if they complete it, they win the game. So
Yeah.
it was, it's, you really do need, it is interesting. You really do need a lot of things to go your way. I realize Brady won 7 championships, but they went 10 years where they didn't win the Super Bowl and they only got there twice. So it was,
the 2 that he lost during that time. I mean, like, he throws a pass to Wes Welker. He almost catches it, and then there was, of course, the helmet catch and all that other stuff in the other game. But yeah.
Yeah, that's the crazy part about the Patriots. Like the 2 Super Bowls they lost, they probably should have won, and then the Super Bowls against Atlanta and Seattle, they probably should have lost. So it just
that's kind of how it goes,
So real quick before we get out of here, so I brought up to you watching the 49ers Cowboys game, that hey, maybe the Dolphins should trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. If you could get him for a 2nd-round pick, he's got 1 year left on his deal.
Folks, his timing was literally perfect because he said that, and then Jimmy Garoppolo threw an interception.
Yeah, he threw the one interception that you can't throw. Yeah, no, listen, I just think this is
all seriousness. Go ahead.
So I want to do a little off-season outlook for the Dolphins. This is we're at the point in the Dolphins. This about every 3 years they do this, where the general manager knows he's probably going to get fired. He's basically got one more shot. So basically, the Dolphins have a lot of cap space, so they're just going to spend a bunch of money on free agents and try everything they can to try to make the playoffs next season. They're going to put everything into it. So my attitude was, if you're going to do that, shoot, why not? Use a 2nd-round pick, get Garoppolo for a year. If he works out, great. If he doesn't, you just let him go.
I mean, I guess I could sort of see that. My only thing is, like, he's not going to be very effective unless you can really run the ball and you can protect him. Even if you protect him, he's going to get hurt, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, I guess you could make a case for that, but no, it seems like from a lot of stuff I'm reading, they really want to give this Tua thing a shot, which is just kind of. I've been reading some different stuff that some reporters have been putting out there, that there was an anonymous player for the Dolphins who said that I'm wasting my time here on the Dolphins if Tua's the quarterback, because he's limited, he can't make all the throws. And then there's I also read something that there's been some resentment from a lot of the players toward Tua because he was billed as, he's going to be the savior. He's going to be really great. He was the number 5 pick in the draft, and he has not lived up to that. Also, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, and maybe this is just a wardrobe thing, but you notice Joe Burrow has a captain thing on his jersey, and you're like, he's only been there 2 years. How can he be a captain? Well, I guess he's a really good leader. Tua's been there 2 years. I don't see a C. I'm just saying, and it was because I texted you yesterday. I'm like, look, you can't fool the players. The players who are there watching them practice and playing with them, they know who can play and they know who can't play. So, the Jimmy G thing I think is interesting, but I think they're really legitimately going to give it a serious shot. So with Tua. So, I mean, I feel like they already have given it a serious shot, and we've kind of seen the results. But
well, then I have a message for Chris Greer. Get ready to be unemployed, because
Yeah,
that's how that works. Yeah, I texted you earlier. So Burrow's taking the Bengals into the NFC Championship game. They were 2-14 2 years ago.
yeah.
So I just want to, it feels like I'm always banging on the Dolphins, but I can't help the truth is the truth. The Bengals' talent isn't really any different than the Dolphins is. The Bengals don't have a good offensive line.
Yeah, it's in some ways you could say the Bengals is a little bit better. I mean, Jamar Chase is really good. T. Higgins is really good. Uzoma, that tight end's good. I mean, Joe Mixon's a good running back. But their offensive line's kind of a mess. Their defense is better than it was last year.
I think the Dolphins' defense is better than the Bengals' defense.
That's fair. Yeah.
So this is my point.
6 1 half dozen the other. It's kind of like,
Right.
But the quarterback is obviously,
Right. So but this is my point, right? It's not the talent in the NFL is fairly even unless you're Detroit or Houston or Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
So you're always close enough. What?
I said even Houston looked good at the end of the year.
Right, exactly. So this is my point. The argument that, well, the Dolphins overachieved, so they shouldn't have fired Flores, I just don't buy it. I don't think the Dolphins overachieved. I think the Dolphins are what they are. And this is the difference to me. This is the difference a quarterback makes, folks. This is why people stake their jobs on these picks. This is why it's so important. Because if you pick the wrong one, you end up like the Dolphins. If you pick the right one, you can be in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
So I am concerned about what the Dolphins do this year. I feel like if they manage to sneak into the playoffs next year, it'll be a complete fraud. And we'll see how it goes. I'm disappointed. As I've said before, I feel bad. I feel like Flores should have probably gotten another year.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I kind of, whatever. I don't know. I mean, look, maybe he'll, if he gets another chance, look, if he can assemble a good staff and not fire everybody every 2 seconds, then, and he has a quarterback, maybe he can be successful. I don't know,
Yeah, I don't have no problem with him as a coach, but I just think he's the best of a bad group. It's like, if you're, as far as the owner, the general manager, the quarterback, and the coach was the best one of that group. But if I was grading him on a scale, like if we were in school, I'm giving Flores like a C-.
Yeah.
I just I don't think there's anything special. And yeah, you could make the argument, well, if he had a quarterback, yeah, it's probably true. Probably accurate. If they draft, as I've said before, if they drafted Justin Herbert, we're not sitting here talking about the coach being fired. He probably keeps his job. That's how the NFL works, folks. That's how it works.
Yeah.
You get that pick right, or you end up looking for a job. And
in fact, when Fitzpatrick was playing, and Fitzpatrick is up and down, whatever. I mean, he's played on like 7 different teams, but I mean, when he was playing well, the Dolphins' offense looked pretty good. Before they put Tua in last year, they scored like 40 points against the 49ers, like they, with Fitzpatrick. So,
all right, folks, I think we're good. So
yeah, enjoy the games.
Enjoy the games. Maybe we'll come on and preview Conference Championship Sunday. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what time we. I wish I liked when they did the games at 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock. Now you're this 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Like, next thing you know, they're going to put the Super Bowl on Tuesday or something. Well, the prime time audience that we can get on a Tuesday is just,
Yeah, not sure that's going to happen. All right, folks.